Every once in a while, you're in the right place at the right time. Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. That's exactly what happened to me this fall 2019, during deer hunting season. I'm sitting, talking on the phone, looking out the window at the Ultimate Reloader cabin, right here at the Ultimate Reloader outpost, when what do I see but a beautiful, big 4x4 buck walk into view with some of his lady friends. Probably 4 does, I want to say. And I had to do a double take. I don't normally see bucks down here at the lower elevations where my cabin is. Usually they are up towards the top of the hill. They're pretty reclusive. See a lot of does, hardly ever a buck. So my eyes are bugging out at this point. I knew I had to act fast. I did grab my ATN Binox 4K binoculars. I'll show you some of that footage. This buck was just taking his sweet time, eating foliage up there, some greens, and his does were just hanging out with him. He was broadside to me probably for a good 5 minutes while I was deciding exactly what to do. Now, I knew that I had this 300 PRC full custom. This is the one I built with the Kelbley's Atlas Tactical, Remington 700 long action, the Benchmark barrel steel, barrel blank, MDT ACC chassis. It's got the Delta Striker HD 5-50. This is a heavy gun setup for long range, but it's what I had on hand. And I also remembered that I had some of this Hornady Precision Hunter ammunition. This is 300 PRC factory ammo that uses a Hornady 212 grain ELDX. ELDX has done really well for me. I took a black bear last year with 6.5 Creedmoor with my own 143 grain ELDX loads, and that absolutely knocked the bear down. It performed really well. So I decided I'm going to grab some of that 212 Precision Hunter ammo. I'm going to use this 300 PRC full custom. It was almost like cheating. I mean, I was at probably 50 yards, maybe, if that. And while I was goofing around, the buck and his does had walked a little further up the hill, so I wasn't able to shoot it out the window, but I was able to go up to a rock and I steadied the rifle, pulled the trigger, and he was lights out. I mean, it was instantaneous. I had a perfect broadside shoulder shot, and this deer was flat out down. So I went up to investigate what was going on, and actually a couple of the does had come down and were probably within about 15 feet of me, sniffing around, wondering, why is my dude friend down laying on the ground taking a nap? Well, fortunate for me, this deer was slightly uphill from a road that I put in, and so I was able to drive the backhoe up this little access road and then drag the buck down by his antlers, and it wasn't really that far. Load him into the front loader and take him over to my shop, upper shed area, and string him up with the backhoe and gut him out, and that made it really, really super convenient. I mean, really, this was like a 10-minute hunting trip. But if you're like me, I was wondering, well, what about 300 PRC for a big deer? Is it just complete overkill? Well, when we were caping out the deer, we found the evidence that we needed. I found the bullet. My friend Eric actually found this bullet when he was helping me, and it was against the hide on the far side, so the far shoulder essentially. It's the jacket. It's actually missing the core. So based on the examination of the outside, from what I can recall that is, I believe the core came all the way through and the jacket stopped at the far side. I had a good shot. It was instant lights out for this deer, so this cartridge did really well. Is this overkill for a deer? Probably so. But I would rather have too much power than not enough, right? It's like buying a truck. I'm going to get the diesel. I know I'm going to have to tow at some point. Might as well get a 1-ton. And it's really about the versatility because, you know, I think the sweet spot for 300 PRC for hunting is the longer range stuff and is going to be larger game like elk. I would feel perfectly comfortable taking that same buck that I took with this 300 PRC with 6.5 Creedmoor. Absolutely. But this is what I had on hand. I used it and it worked amazingly. What's interesting to look at is I've had these discussions with Hornady before about their ELDX bullets. What is terminal ballistics for ELDX? The basic rule of thumb is you want to have 1,600 feet per second or more. On the box, the velocity is listed as 2860 feet per second. And I actually did just a little bit better than that. Yes, just confirmed it, 2860 at the muzzle. I got a velocity from SHOTMARKER and I reversed engineered. I added 120 feet per second, which is pretty standard for 300 PRC for my calculations. I was at 2880, and you know, this is a 26-inch barrel, so I think, you know, maybe they were testing with a 24-inch barrel. Anyways, within 20 feet per second. And what I did was I went to Hornady's online 4DOF ballistic calculators on their website. I'll have a link in the full article that will give you a link where you can calculate your own ballistics based on Hornady bullets and other third-party bullets. And I put in my 2880 at the muzzle, and I looked at, you know, what is the velocity you can do at 100-yard increments. And it's pretty interesting. At 600 yards, we're still at over 2,000 feet per second, 2090. At 800, we're at 1850. And at a full 1,000, we're at 1625. So what that tells me is that 300 PRC in this gun is 1,000-yard lethal. Now you're going to have to decide what's ethical for you. A 1,000-yard hunting shot is not something that you want to try unless you are specially qualified, extra trained on your rifle, you have a large target. You know, this is ethically up to you. But on paper and with real-world data, the ELDX bullet is going to be lethal at 1,000 yards. The animal could move in that amount of time. That's probably a second and a third, 1.3 seconds, somewhere in that vicinity. A lot can happen in that amount of time. Wind can push the bullet a bit. Of course, 300 PRC is ultra stable, and the high BC bullets do really well in really long-range environments. But I thought that was really impressive, the fact that this could be lethal at 1,000 yards, maybe on something really big like a giant elk or something like that. So I would be curious to hear your thoughts. Are you going to hunt with 300 PRC? Not only is this cartridge good for long-range precision shooting, whether it be informally with friends or in a match, an ELR match or a PRS match, but I think it's a fabulous hunting gun. This was my first 300 PRC build, and I'm going to be following that up with my Remington 700 long range. It's going to be more budget oriented, it's going to be lighter weight. That's going to be really the rifle, the 300 PRC rifle that I would take hunting. What kind of 300 PRC would you hunt with? Are you hunting with a different cartridge? Tell us about it by dropping a comment. Also, I'll note I'm midway through this 300 PRC and 6.5 PRC series. I've got a lot more builds, ballistics, and long-range shooting coming up. Make sure that you're subscribed with notifications. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.